Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today is the day where I'm finally going to show you all the steps needed to install that Ford 8.8 into your Mopar A body. And this is an 8.8 that is uncut, factory length, no shortening required. You know, I love making these videos and I really do appreciate all the support. So if you haven't already, please like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Alright, if you haven't seen the video where I yanked this out of the yard, this is a Ford 8.8 rear axle. Came out of a 97 Explorer. Before I do anything to it, it is filthy, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a bath. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the extra components. So the calipers, the rotors, the brake lines, we'll strip it all clean. Okay, I decided to keep a couple things on, like the dust shield and the axle in-house. I'm not going to have to worry about that. What I'm going to tackle now, while I've got it in this position, is these are like auxiliary brackets for the Ford. Obviously, we don't need them in our Mopars. So I'm going to go ahead and cut both of these off. And while I'm in the cutting mode, I'm also going to remove the spring perches, both left and right, since I've got to scoot them out. All right, I've seen a lot of talk about some people trying to reuse the spring perches, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Throw that idea in the garbage where it belongs. These spring perches are so cheap, don't waste your time trying to save the old ones. I mean, if your time is like mine, it's extremely valuable. I'm not about to waste 3 hours trying to get old spring perches when new ones are $14. Just go buy them, seriously. All right, I'm using an angle grinder to cut these perches off. It's a 4-inch wheel, just trying to make a straight cut right above the weld. You know, it's way easier to grind down material as opposed to building it back up. So I'm just really trying to not nick the tube. I'm having to use these crappy Harbor Freight wheels, so doing the best I can with it. Once I've got the straight cuts cut right above the welds, then I'll cut it straight down the center where the leaf spring hole's at, and then knock it off with a hammer. All right, so the brackets are cut, perches cut. I did nick the tube a little bit right here, so I'm gonna go through, weld that, grind it flush again, but I've got a lot of material to grind off here, so for the next hour, you already know what I'm gonna be doing. All right, now while the driveway is a mess and I've got the angle grinder out, I'm gonna go ahead and throw a wire wheel on it, and I'm gonna clean the mating surfaces between the tubes and the housing all the way around both sides. Now I'm doing this because I'm gonna end up welding these tubes to the housing. This is the biggest weak spot for the 8.8, so I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that now. Now, of course, before I start welding, I'm gonna make sure there's no fluid in the diff. They drain them in the yards for their cyclers, but there's usually a little bit left over, so I'm gonna go ahead, pop the cover, take a look at everything, and drain whatever's left. All right, so I did my best to clean this area up. Used a wire wheel initially, and then went back with a wire brush to get underneath that little lip. There's still a little bit of grease and solvents in there. So one of the things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a torch, just a simple butane torch here, and I'm going to clean up the area just on the ledge there, as well as the housing. Now what this is doing is it's going to heat up the housing, as it's cast steel. We want to make sure it's a little bit warmer before we start welding, but it's also going to take out all the extra grease and grind that I couldn't get with the wire brush. Making sure I've got a nice and clean weld. All right, now as you can see, I've done 2 welds about 180 degrees apart from each other, and I did that for a reason. I don't want to warp this thing. I still have the tubes in it, the axle and everything. So I've got 180 degrees. I'm gonna let them cool down, and I'm gonna move to the other side tube while those are cooling off. All right, so I just finished welding up the tubes. I didn't do a full bead around. I don't really think that's necessary. I just put a 1-inch bead in about every single quadrant. So way more strength than it had originally. I'm not too worried about the axle tubes at all. I think this is gonna handle the race perfectly. Not just the race too, this is gonna last a very long time. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is after you get these welded up, do not drastically cool them. So don't dump any water on them or anything like that. Some people will go as far as to wrap the welds and let them anneal over a period of like 4 to 6 hours. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna let them air cool, but not any faster than that. And the reason being is because of this cast steel. If you were to flash shock it, you're gonna get cracks. And you know, obviously you don't want to do that. You're putting these welds in for a reason. So do not flash cool it. Just let it cool naturally, or if you want, wrap it up and let it cool over a longer period of time. All right, before I weld on the spring purchase, I got to figure out what kind of angle I need to weld them at. So I pulled the stock axle, got it here. I'm going to measure both purchase, see where it's at so I can weld on the new ones. Okay, this is how I'm going to measure the stock perch angle for this 7 1/4. I've got the axle now with a level pinion, using the jack to make sure the pinion's level. You can see the perches are slanted back. Now keep in mind, the axle is upside down at the moment. So I'll take this angle finder, place it on the perch, and as you can see, showing what looks like 8 degrees positive, since when this axle were flipped, it would be pushing the pinion up 8 degrees due to the perches. So I'll weld on the new spring perches at 8 degrees positive for the 8.8. All right, in a similar fashion to how I measured the old axle, I've got the new axle now level at the pinion. So you see they're using the jack. I've already got the spring perches measured out 43 inches, center line to center line. These are the Moroso spring perches, 14 bucks on Amazon. I like these ones because they have the correct 1/2 inch pinhole for the spring. Some of the newer ones have a 5/8 hole, it makes it loose in there. These are a direct fit. So they've already been measured. Now I just need to take the protractor, clean it up, put it on the spring perch. I have a mark over here. I'll line up, make sure I'm on 43. And I need to measure this down to 8 degrees. Because it's a bigger tube, I'm gonna cut it a degree short at 7. I can always shim it if needed. Right about there. Okay, right there, perfect. So what I'll do now is I'll come through with the welder, I'll tack it in place, I'll tack the other one in place, measure once again, and then if it's all good to go, I'll weld them in. All right, just got them tacked in. There's still a perfect 43 inches center line to center line, and they're both still right at 7 degrees. Time for some serious welding. All right, purchase are all welded up. I just sprayed it with some etching primer. Once that dries, I'll cover it with black. I'm not too worried about it looking nice. Well, I've got this open and exposed. I clean up the gasket material area, or the mating surface. And I've got some Lucas 85 weight 140 gear oil. I'm gonna dump it in here. Usually these take about 2 quarts. I'm gonna throw this in here now while it's easily accessible. And then I will verify once I get it in position by opening the hole up front, making sure that it's got enough. Okay, so I'm on day 3 of this axle swap, putting that forward, 8.8 into the dart. In reality, probably have about 10 hours, but you know how it works with a young family. We've got a newborn baby girl, so I can never work solid straight time. I gotta do 2 hours here, 3 hours there to help with the family. But this is where I'm at currently with the swap. All right, the 8.8 is done. I've already retrofitted the perches. You can see at the perch here, over there. I already measured them 43 inches on center. I've got them measured at 7 degrees positive in relation to the pinion angle. And before I swap them, I noticed going through, because this car's so old and it's sat in the yard so long, that the rubber is just completely garbage. I mean, can't really quite, you see all that dry rot? Yeah, just terrible, stiff as hell. This one just completely fell apart when I was taking it out. And so it's just little things like this. This is not expensive. I mean, I got this on Amazon here for, I think it was like $12.99, new bushings. And yeah, they're kind of a pain to swap out, but it's the little things like this that really put you in an advantage on the track. So many people focus on horsepower. It's got its place, but your suspension does more for you than half the horsepower you're gonna be putting to the ground. So, if you're making 300 horsepower, 400 horsepower, that doesn't do you any good unless you're able to put all of that to the ground. So bushings, shocks, the right gear ratio, the right suspension, pinion angle, all that is huge when it comes to racing. So that's why, even though I've got such a limited budget here, I'm taking the time to go ahead and swap out those bushings. There's like a couple other things I'm gonna do, which I'll show you in another video, some small free tricks to get you down the track faster. But that's where I'm at now with the Ford 8.8. I'm gonna get this bad boy bolted in here so I can see what it looks like with the wheels and tires on the ground. And by the power of YouTube, you get to see it in about 30 seconds. Okay, so I got the axle fully bolted in the car now. Now remember, the 8.8 has like a 2-inch offset to the passenger side, and our factory Mopars have like a 1.5 inch or 1 3/4 inch offset. So a lot of questions I see posted online on the forums, or what does that look like for the drive shaft angle? So I've got the axle right now holding the weight of the car, so the jack is underneath it, which tells you this is how it would sit if it was on the ground with the tires. And I'm going to show you what that drive shaft angle looks like. All right, it's quite messy. I haven't picked up my tools or anything. As you can see, it's nice and squared away right in the wheel well. I've got tons of room from that axle. It's not at risk of hitting anything. That's just the brake line right there, as you see. I cut it when I was pulling the old one out. It does sit to the side a little bit, not too much. Now I have jack stands under here, so I'm not completely stupid crawling underneath here without some sort of lifeline. Here's what drive shaft angle looks like. As you can see, it is pushed over a little bit more to the side than when I originally had it. It looks like I still got another full inch, maybe inch and a quarter from the exhaust on the passenger side. And this is not bolted in. This is the stock drive shaft, just kind of resting on that adapter. I need to actually get the correct adapter for it. The one that I have from the Explorer will push it out another inch. So a lot of people will actually shorten their drive shaft an inch. I'm gonna pull this drive shaft out, compare it to the Explorer drive shaft, probably take one over to the driveline shop, have them shorten it and balance it. But that's what it looks like. Fits pretty nicely. I'm really happy with it. I'm gonna throw some tires on it now and see what it looks like on the ground. All right, now here is the final product for that rear end. Now keep in mind, these are not your stock Mustang wheels. These are 17 by 9 with a 10-inch wide tire. So I scored these off of Facebook for the whopping price of 400 bucks. They're only 6 months old, only one time at the track, still have the nubs on them. Nice Mickey Thompson radials. So 10-inch wide tire, I still have an inch between the springs. So it's beautiful. Now I am gonna get pretty close to the lip here. So I'm probably gonna trim that. You know, you could roll it. I'm just gonna push it up a little bit and maybe trim that edge so I don't scrape it with the tire. But these are super lightweight, but wide wheels. So I'm really happy with it. It's gonna do really well at the race. Same thing with this side. I've got to just trim this here, which not a big deal. I did that on my 75 Dart Swinger. So I'll make sure to get that before, but that's what it looks like. You know, you put a stock Mustang wheel on this, absolutely no problem. I just happened to go for the biggest I could fit naturally, which is what we're doing here. And it fits relatively easy. You know, I've got plenty of space in front. I'll fix this. This is all corrosion here, but I'll push that in. There's no issues there at all. You know, if you wanted to run the stock wheels, the stock Dart wheels, yeah, you'd probably want to shorten it because this is the same width as a B body. You know, 59 inches from wheel mounting surface to wheel mounting surface on this axle. But I really like the wider axle. In fact, I custom ordered my Strange 60 at that same 90 or 59 inch wheel mounting surface to wheel mounting surface. And while I got you here, I'll show you what that looks like on the 69 Barracuda. So it's really nice. These are, again, Mustang wheels, but I don't even have to worry about the lip on here. And these are 28-inch tall tires. Now I still got to hook up the brake cables. I've got brand new rotors and calipers for it. I got to put all that stuff on there. I'm still waiting for a couple of those things. So this is going to be it for the video. I'm going to post some pictures here so you can see different angles of what that axle looks like with these wheels in here. And let me know if you got any questions or comments. Thanks.